Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? This will be a continuation of the showcase yesterday that was uploaded for the super type mono support team, all basically on one team. So this is pretty much the extreme variation of it. So again, this is pretty much all of the 40%, now 50% leads, or not leads, but passive support for each of their specific types. Of course, the passive skill sets are pretty much similar all across the board, where essentially it's type key +3 and then plus an additional attack and defense increase of 50% for either a super or extreme key type, and then randomly changes key of a certain type to whatever their relevant key spheres are, and then a nuking passive of attack and defense 20% per key sphere obtained. So individually the passive skills are pretty similar all across the board. Even with the Supreme Extreme type settings, they're basically inverted amongst the groups. But the super tag abilities are a little bit different individually per unit, so I definitely do want to cover them individually. So let's talk about the Hyper Meta Rildo first. With the super tag, greatly raises attack and defense for one turn, causes supreme damage to enemy, and also seals super attack. For the second form cell unit, super tag will cause supreme damage to enemy and greatly lowers attack and defense. For the Scouter Vegeta, raises attack and causes supreme damage with a medium chance of stunning the enemy, so it has the Kaioken mechanic built in for the attack as well as a medium chance of stunning. In terms of hit, it's pretty similar to Vegeta, where it's instead of attack, he's got the ability to raise defense along with causing supreme damage with a medium chance of stunning the enemy. And lastly, the Super Buu unit causes supreme damage to enemy and recovers 18% HP. So a lot of these guys are going to be fighting over each other, similar to how the super type team was, in terms of which one is able to obtain the key, depending on what becomes available on each of the rotations. But again, ultimately similar to last time's video, it's more or less just a nice little fun experiment to run and see how the units run together as an overall team. And as I've commented on the last video, they're actually doing pretty well. Inverted to the super team, where the leaders were the Transforming Trunks unit. Of course, with the extreme variation, it is pretty much going to be the Transforming Zamasu unit as leaders, and seeing how the units perform individually. So it looks like a lot of key spheres obtained with the Vegeta unit here, so I would expect pretty decent output, along with defense being pretty reliable as well. I mean, given that 20%, each of these guys get a 20% attack and defense increase per key sphere obtained, so they could become very, very good offensively and defensively if you decide to prioritize these guys in terms of obtaining the key spheres available. So in terms of the practical uses, Hyper Meta Rildo, obviously pretty nice little ability, greatly raises attack and defense for one turn, along with sealing the enemy's super attack. The link set's not too bad. I mean, the unit does at least have Thirst for Conquest, which is 15% toward attack. Shocking Speed is key +2. Those are two very common extreme type links, and a lot of very good units tend to have those, at least one out of the two there. I mean, Shattering the Limit is not too bad as well. That's at least a key +2, link, but other than that, they are very, very specific. Now, the second form cell, of course, this guy will link up with, all the cell units available. I mean, they pretty much have the same sort of listings. In terms of outside of cell units, Nightmare is 10% to attack. Brutal Beatdown is also 10% to attack as well. Big Bad Boss is obviously a pretty good link set to have. Attack and defense increase to 25% when HP is 80% or below. So a lot of these links are being shared amongst some of the other more prominent units in the game. So I think second form cell does have a pretty good link set overall. The Scouter Vegeta definitely does have a pretty decent one also. I mean, Saiyan Warrior Race, it's not really a relevant link because of only attack increase of flat number of 700, but Royal Lineage, Big Bad Bosses, Prodigies, Nightmare, Brutal Beatdown, and even Shattering the Limit are pretty prevalent link sets. So very, very good link setting with that guy. Now, in terms of the hit unit, in fighters, fairly common, experienced fighters as well. That's 10% to attack. Cold Judgment, you shouldn't struggle too much to find link sets for that, 20% toward defense. Again, as I mentioned, in fighters, attack increase of 10%, enemies defense minus 10%. Shocking Speed as well, pretty prominent link sets, and if you are going specific with either a Universe Survival Saga or Universe 6 setting, of course a lot of units would have Warriors of Universe 6, that is 6 key plus 2, and then Tournament of Power is also key plus 3, so you can run a fair amount of units that share that link set. In terms of the Super Boo unit, we'll talk about this lastly, but similar to the other Boo units, not so much in terms of like key boosting links. At least Fear and Faith and Shattering the Limit are available. That's key plus 2 individually, and then of course like Majin and Brutal Beatdown and stuff like that. So not too terrible. At least 2 of the key links do help out in terms of getting the super attack abilities, but along with that, the passive skill providing themselves, an extra key boost does help. So I think overall this is a very self-sufficient team. This was kind of a mistake here. Should have given the Dokkan mode to the Super Boo unit, but unfortunately second form Cell ended up getting it. Maybe a critical hit will activate it to offset the type disadvantage, but similar to what I said in the last video, it's surprisingly how well this team can actually run when they're only benefiting their individual typings. Of course, like the same type regardless of super or extreme, they do provide key support across the board. But even with that being said, it's essentially 120% lead with the Transforming Zamasu unit. I don't think any of these units necessarily fall into the Realm of Gods category, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like all of these are outside of that category, so they're straight up only getting the 120% boost overall. But even with that, they're performing quite well, just because the ability to raise attack and defense by 20% for every key obtained. So again, that does help out quite a bit. You'll see the rotations are kind of like, I wouldn't say all over the place, but they were kind of set up to link up certain units together and then just kind of trial of different rotations throughout, toward the end. But I think at least for this rotation, the Rildo and Hit unit, they do have Shocking Speed, so of course that does help out in terms of like the actual key links. Outside of that, there shouldn't be that many links shared amongst the group. I think for the second form Cell and Scouter Vegeta, they do have like Nightmare. I think they do have Nightmare as well as Brutal Beatdown, along with big bad bosses and Shattering the Limit. So they do share quite a few amount of links. So that does definitely help with having those two on the rotation. I think with the Super Boo unit, at least the unit does have Shattering the Limit and Brutal Beatdown. So those are fairly common links amongst a couple of these units on the team itself. So overall it's more or less just testing out different rotations, see how they kind of do overall across the board, and that's pretty much the takeaway with that. Of course, with the amount of the strength key available, even with type disadvantage, it's like might as well give it to Hit here. Yeah, I mean, obtaining the key definitely does help out quite a bit defensively. Didn't check what the defensive stats were upon obtaining the key spheres, but I would imagine it's certainly making a pretty significant impact on this. A pretty modest amount, 1 million attack stats, very, very modest attack stats there, but Could certainly be higher, but you know, it all is dependent on the amount of key spheres obtained here. Let's see defensively how this guy is. Yeah, 65,000. So you know, depending on how much key you're able to obtain, that could certainly make a hell of a difference in terms of being able to tank super attacks as well. So this is a modest amount of 4 key and then like 5 key spheres obtained. So you'll be able to see more or less a realistic output offensively and defensively based on, you know, the amount of key collected on a 120% lead setting. So, you know, 1 million attack stats given that, you know, that's still very, very good. So I guess we'll just go through like one more rotation and see how things are, especially given that Vegeta does have type advantage here. So that'll be nice to see what how he's able to perform here. So 784,000 attack stats. Second form Cell has 260,000, with Boo with 245,000. So yeah, that's pretty much these guys. They perform very well, even on a 120% lead. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video as always, and definitely stay tuned for the next one coming up. All right, peace out, guys.